Experience the life of the notorious drug lord El Mencho. You have just turned 7 years old and live in Michoacán, in a remote village called Naranjo, far from other settlements. Your family is extremely poor, destitute. Your father works in the fields from dawn till dusk, while your mother sells tamales on the street. You have 5 siblings, and your whole family squeezes into a single adobe house with a tin roof and a dirt floor. Looking around, all you see is abject poverty. With a lack of opportunities and government neglect, deep down you already know this life is not enough. Your name is Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, but in the future, the world will know you as El Mencho. Time flies, and now you are 17. Not only has your family's situation not improved, it has gotten even worse. Your family desperately needs money, and you can no longer continue your studies. You have to work. You decide to cross the border into the United States in pursuit of the American dream. The year is 1986. You wade through a river, soaked to the bone, the cold biting into you. But you finally make it to California. You work hard wherever you can find a job. Restaurants, construction sites, cleaning, taking whatever comes your way. You earn dollars and send them back home, improving your family's meals. Yet deep inside, you long for more. You meet a group of people, Mexicans like yourself, but they don't work in restaurants. They are involved in drug trafficking, heroin, cocaine, their weekly earnings. In a week, they earn what you earn in half a year. They invite you to join their operation. You hesitate, thinking of your family, but you want to escape poverty. You agree. In 1990, at the age of 24, you join a heroin distribution network in San Francisco. It's not a major operation, and things start smoothly until one day, something goes wrong. The DEA launches a raid and you're caught on the spot, carrying 18 kilograms of heroin. The court sentences you to 3 years in federal prison. In the United States, prison conditions are harsh and rife with violence. But there you learn how the business truly operates. You get to know some well-connected and powerful people from the Sinaloa Cartel and the Gulf Cartel. In 1993, you are released, but you are not truly free. You are deported back to Mexico, returning to Michoacán. But now, you are no longer the same as before, no longer just another poor child from Naranjo. You had become deeply versed in the drug trade, with a network of contacts and a hunger for power. At that time, Mexico was exactly the kind of place where people like you could thrive. In 1994, you returned to Mexico, penniless, jobless, and burdened with a criminal record. But you possessed something more valuable: experience, connections, and an unyielding will. Did you try to make a living legally? Did you really make an effort? You once joined the ranks of ordinary people in Michoacán. That's right, you became a police officer for nearly 2 years, patrolling, making arrests, and following the rules. It all seemed legal and above board, but you witnessed the inner workings. Colleagues accepting bribes, turning a blind eye to drug shipments, even providing protection for traffickers. Meanwhile, you earned only 1,000 pesos a month, while the drug dealers raked in millions. Did you start weighing the pros and cons? If you stayed in the police force, you would die in poverty. Or worse, you might lose your life in a shootout, serving as cannon fodder for corrupt politicians you didn't even know. You made the decision to resign and then voluntarily sought out the Millennium Cartel. At the time, the Millennium Cartel was a powerful organization, controlling states like Jalisco, Michoacán, and Colima, and shipping tons of white powder to the United States. They needed manpower, trained and experienced personnel. You came forward and told them about your background, including your time spent in prison in the United States. You were deported, had worked as a police officer in Mexico, and were familiar with the system. They accepted you, and you started from the bottom, doing surveillance, security, and transportation. You carried out any task assigned by your superiors, never questioning the reason, never hesitating, and you always completed assignments perfectly. They quickly noticed your intelligence and potential, so they promoted you, first to oversee transportation routes, then to coordinate shipments, and eventually to become a regional leader. As the years passed, 2000, 2005, 2007, your status continued to rise. However, in 2009, the situation changed fast. The leaders of the Millennium Cartel were arrested one after another, causing internal chaos. A power vacuum emerged, and you keenly sensed an opportunity. You gathered your most loyal subordinates, those who had trusted you for years, and proposed a plan to build a new, even stronger organization that would not rely on the old leaders. An organization combining modern efficiency with brutal characteristics. In 2010, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG, was formed. You became its leader, but were no ordinary boss. Your clear strategy set you apart. Rather than equaling the Sinaloa Cartel, you wanted to surpass them. Beyond trafficking drugs, you controlled entire territories. Instead of negotiating, you confronted the government head-on. For this purpose, you needed a weapon that other cartels did not possess: fear, absolute, unmitigated fear. In 2011, you were barely a year old, and no one took you seriously. You were just an up-and-coming small cartel with no reputation. But this situation would soon change. Los Zetas controlled most of Mexico. They were ruthless, merciless, killing indiscriminately, kidnapping, and extorting. In Veracruz, they held absolute power, but you decided to challenge them. This was not just about fighting for territory. It was about establishing your own reputation. Because if you could defeat the Zetas, everyone would understand that you were not to be underestimated. In September 2011, 2 heavy trucks stopped in downtown Boca del Rio, Veracruz. They unloaded 35 bodies, each one tortured, all dismembered, some even beheaded. You also left a message: all Zetas will meet the same fate, signed, El Mencho. The entire country was shocked and stunned. Never before had a rising cartel carried out such a public, brutal, and meticulously planned act. The media began widely reporting your name, and the government launched a manhunt for you. But within the drug world, people began to fear you because your message was that the CJNG was not to be trifled with. In the following years, you made enemies of the Zetas, the Gulf Cartel, and anyone else in your way. You adopted methods never used by predecessors. Video recordings. You filmed executions, uploading them to the internet to show how you tortured, killed, and dismembered people. Why? Because fear spreads faster through images. When a politician investigated you, he ended up dead in his own home. A warning was left next to the corpse. When a journalist wrote a report about you, he simply vanished from the world. If a rival dared to provoke you, his entire family would be wiped out. You never left any loose ends, you never forgave betrayal, and you never accepted any challenge. This strategy worked. By 2013, the CJNG had taken full control of the entire state of Jalisco and occupied parts of Michoacán, Colima, Nayarit, and Guanajuato. But you were still not satisfied. You wanted to take Tijuana, seize Ciudad Juarez, and control everything. To achieve this, you had to confront Mexico's largest cartel, the Sinaloa Cartel. In 2014, you officially declared war. This was not a covert war, but an open, violent conflict fought in plain sight. Your assassins infiltrated Sinaloa's territory, committing murders and arson, making bodies disappear without a trace. Sinaloa struck back, and your men were killed one after another. Your territory was attacked, but you did not stop because you possessed an understanding they did not. You were not just fighting for turf, you wanted absolute control. You were willing to lose 1,000 men if it meant gaining control over a single territory. Sinaloa was not willing to pay such a price. They were after business, while you were after an empire. You gradually encroached on their territory. In 2015, you already controlled 13 states in Mexico, becoming the fastest expanding cartel boss in the history of Mexican drug trafficking. The whole world began to know your name, El Mencho, the most dangerous man in Mexico. In May 2015, your men used a rocket launcher to shoot down a military helicopter, killing 8 soldiers on the spot. This was the first time in history that a drug cartel had shot down a military aircraft, a message that could not have been clearer. CJNG is an army, not just a cartel, ready for war if the government demands it. By 2016, CJNG wasn't just in Mexico, it was a transnational organization. Your drug routes spanned 30 countries across the US, Europe, Asia, and Australia. Weekly, you shipped tons of cocaine, meth, heroin, and fentanyl, with annual revenues hitting $50 billion. You out-earned many legitimate businessmen. You held more power than the governors of various states and were even more feared than the government itself. But power inevitably attracts attention. The United States and the DEA put you atop their most wanted list with a $10 million reward for your capture. You became the world's top drug lord, surpassing El Chapo Guzman and even Pablo Escobar in his prime. Yet you never hid, never fled to the mountains, nor took refuge in a bunker. You lived right in Jalisco, in the heart of the city, protected by hundreds of assassins, bribed politicians, and police officers who owed you favors, all working for you because you led. Few truly understand the core of power is not hiding, but control. And you controlled everything. You controlled the secret laboratories producing crystal meth in Jalisco, the industrial production using imported chemicals. You controlled the maritime routes, cargo ships, submarines, small planes. You controlled the border crossings, tunnels, bribes, and legal ports. You also controlled the hearts and minds of the people. Because you not only used violence, but also understood how to use money. You built schools in forgotten villages, paved roads, distributed food relief packages, and even paid for funerals. The common people saw you as a Robin Hood, while the government saw you as a terrorist. But the truth is much simpler. You were a businessman. Your product was illegal, but your business model was pure capitalism, supply and demand. Market competition eliminated your rivals, and no one did it better than you. In 2017, the situation changed once again. The Mexican government launched a large-scale crackdown, codenamed Operation Jalisco. 5,000 soldiers, equipped with helicopters and tanks, all targeted at capturing you. They attacked your businesses, arrested your lieutenants, and froze your bank accounts. In response, you immediately retaliated. Over the next few years, the conflict continued to escalate. Violent incidents became more frequent, and the death toll kept rising. The territory under your control is expanding, but external pressure mounts daily. The DEA has intensified its manhunt, infiltrating your ranks, tracking communications and monitoring finances. The net is tightening. In 2023, 2024, and 2025, every move you make becomes increasingly difficult. Operations grow tougher and trust turns fragile. Because deep down, you know that somewhere there must be someone out there. Someone is leaking information, and when you're the world's most wanted fugitive, betrayal is inevitable. In January 2025, you are hiding in a safe house near Guadalajara. You change locations every 3 days, never staying twice in the same spot. But this time, something is off. Your bodyguards look tense, there is unusual movement nearby, and the distant roar of helicopters can be heard. You try to escape, but it's too late. The Mexican military has the house surrounded. 200 fully armed soldiers are closing in. Snipers are in ambush on the rooftop, and drones are circling overhead. You have nowhere left to run. Your men open fire, trying to buy you time, but all efforts are in vain. Grenades explode, gunfire roars, and flames shoot into the sky. You know this moment was inevitable, the one you spent 15 years desperately trying to avoid. Now, you face two options. If you surrender and go to prison, you will most likely be extradited to the United States and spend the rest of your life in a maximum security cell. Or, you can fight to the death and end your life here. You choose the latter. Grabbing a rifle, you rush out the door and start shooting. The soldiers quickly return fire, and within seconds, your body crashes to the ground, struck by 3 bullets in the chest, abdomen, and head. El Mencho is dead. The news spreads around the world within minutes. The Mexican military has killed El Mencho, the leader of CJNG. The world's #1 drug lord has been brought down, marking the end of an era in Mexico's drug history. The government holds celebrations and publicly announces victory. However, on the streets of Jalisco, Michoacán, and Colima, the reality is quite different. CJNG has neither collapsed nor disappeared. Your son has long been groomed as your successor, and your brothers are also ready to take over at any moment. Your most loyal deputies quickly took over power. Internally, there were inevitably struggles and violent conflicts, but the organization as a whole still survives. Because it was never just about you alone. It is a system, a structure, a business model. As long as there is demand for drugs in the United States, as long as Mexico remains mired in poverty, as long as there is corruption within the government, CJNG will continue to exist. Sooner or later, another Mencho will emerge. What they killed was just a flesh and blood individual, but the system itself remains full of vitality. Your life began in abject poverty and ended in a hail of gunfire. In between, you built an empire, moved tens of billions in funds, controlled vast territories, and took the lives of thousands upon thousands. You inspired fear, commanded respect, and provoked hatred. But in the end, you fell just like all your predecessors. Because in the world of drugs, there are no happy endings, no retiring in glory, no way out. There are only 2 possible fates: prison or death, and you chose death. Welcome to this system. In this system, no one gets out alive.